Well, well, well. I guess the NSA's mass dragnet surveillance is once again not quite good enough to satisfy the amount of tracking that the Alphabet Boys want to do on citizens of the US and the rest of the world because, let's be honest, governments spy on everybody, even beyond their borders. The metadata, the data about the data, which is primarily what the NSA gathers about people, is apparently not satisfactory. So the IRS and the Department of Homeland Security have decided to contract a private firm that sells location data harvested from several different apps. So the feds, they aren't contacting the devs of these apps directly. That's where the private data broker Xmode, who recently got acquired and then they changed their name to Outlaw, comes in. So they buy, in this case, location data from a bunch of different apps, and then the federal government, they obviously pay a little bit more money for the data to Xmode or Outlogic so that they can actually turn a profit from it. So clearly, the first lesson from this story is that if you are developing an app, you probably shouldn't sell data to data brokers in the first place unless you literally do not care about the privacy of your users and you don't care at all about how the data of your users is going to get used and what it's going to get used for. Because one of the crazier things that I discovered when looking into this is just the spread of apps that data is being collected from. These apps pretty much seem to cover all walks of life, and some of the groups that some of these apps are being used by, the people that are actually using these, have gone through a lot of persecution and a lot of discrimination from the government over the past few decades. So one of the apps that was getting data harvested from it is called Bro, chat, friends, and fun for bi, gay, and open-minded men. So basically it's a gay dating app. I guess if your mind is open, then you can go and get your butthole open too by someone here on Bro. And while this is taking place, the feds will be aware of your location. So seems kind of weird that the IRS and DHS would want to know the location of gay dudes. I guess maybe some people were using this app for prostitution and not reporting their income. And probably what part of this has to do with as well is probably COVID tracking, in countries that have lockdowns or countries where they're still trying to keep people separated from one another. Maybe they use this to try to figure out whenever people are hooking up. Then there's also this app, which is a bit more well-known. So Perfect 365 Makeup Face Editor, which I guess is an app for helping you do your makeup. They sold location data, which was bought by the DHS and the IRS as well. And again, I have no clue why these agencies in particular would be interested in the location data of girls that are doing their makeup. Maybe there's some OnlyFans girls, I guess, that use this and they aren't reporting all of their income, so the IRS tries to use this to track them down for an audit. I don't know. Only the feds know why they would want this data from these particular apps. Now, so far, this might not seem like that big of a deal. I'm pretty sure that most of the people watching probably don't use these apps, but one of the more concerning categories of apps that are selling location data, which also goes to show you just the sheer variety of tracking that's being done, are apps that a lot of Muslims use for notifications on when to pray. So in case you just didn't know about this, Muslims, they typically pray 5 times a day at specific times of day: sunrise, noon, afternoon, sunset, and at night. Now, if you're living in a part of the world that's predominantly Muslim, you can probably just listen for the call to prayer that gets announced from the local mosque, kind of like how you have church bells going off, which I think are kind of the same idea. I think that they're supposed to be calling Christians to pray. So yeah, if you live in an area like that, then the people there, they're already taking care of figuring out when sunset, sunrise, noon, etc. are, and then you can just listen for that alarm to go and do the prayer. But And of course, depending on the season, these prayers would take place at different times. Obviously, sunset and sunrise change throughout the year. But in other parts of the world, you probably would be using an app like this. And as you can see here, almost 2 million people are using this app, and there's over 300,000 people that are using this one. And there's also several other less popular Muslim apps like this one, which look like it's basically just an audiobook of the Quran, and it comes in a bunch of different translations. But apps like this were selling data to the feds as well, location data as far as where the people who are using these apps are. And honestly, with something like this, I don't even know why it would need to gather location data in the first place. And there were several other less popular apps that pretty much do the same things as this one that were selling this location data as well. Now, obviously, if you're buying location data from these apps like the IRS and the DHSR, you're clearly trying to specifically track Muslims, because I don't think that you're going to have a lot of non-Muslims using apps like these. I mean, maybe they would use this one because I believe it comes bundled with a Quran as well. So maybe people who are just interested in reading that or just studying Islamic theology but not actually participating in the faith would be interested in apps like this. But obviously, most people who are using these apps are Muslim, just like most people who are going to be studying the Bible would be Christian, probably not secular or agnostic theologists. They make up a small portion of people who read the Bible. But the reason why I find this type of app tracking in particular so disturbing is the fact that for the past few decades, we've been fighting this war on terror, which is another never-ending war, just like the war on drugs. And many innocent Muslims, as well as non-Muslims, have suffered from this war, whether we're talking about drone strikes or civilians that are killed from other military operations in the Middle East, to people getting put on no-fly list and investigated by the FBI just because they have the same name as a terrorist, to Muslims, Muslim citizens getting abused by and discriminated against because of ignorant people's interpretations of what happens in the news, and just so much news coverage all of a sudden. It's funny, people who didn't even know that Islam was a religion 30 years ago are all of a sudden so concerned about Muslims. And the fact that the Department of Homeland Security is one of the Fed groups purchasing this data makes me even more sure that this is going to be used for some very sketchy reasons. And that this is going to be done under the excuse that it'll be used to make people safer and to prevent terrorist attacks. Also, it's worth pointing out that in the past, Xmode, back when they were actually called Xmode, had supplied location data directly to US military contractors. So these guys, they really don't care who they sell their data to. They will literally just sell it to anybody who's willing to pay. But the thing is, tracking everyone who participates in the world's second largest religion to maybe find a few terrorists, it's not even really practical. It would be like tracking every Irishman to find a few IRA members. It's excessive, it's not even going to give you very great results, and it's also a violation of people's rights. And like I said earlier, I'm pretty sure that some of this tracking is also going to be used to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Maybe people think that if they track Muslims, they can also track people who are going to the mosques, and then they'll consider that to be a gathering that's, dangerous, like some type of super spreader. I forget what type of vocabulary they use specifically about those people, even though freedom of assembly is something that's covered specifically in our Constitution. But preventing the spread of COVID-19, that's just the latest excuse that's being used by governments all over the world to track and abuse their citizens. Even though the vaccines have been out for over a year now, the latest variants are way less deadly than the previous ones. But again, it's another one of those convenient, never-ending dangers that the government can use as an excuse for spying on their citizens. So let's get to the mitigation part and alternative apps that you can use to avoid this spookiness. And honestly, you should probably just avoid apps that are being made by these companies in the first place, because any app that would just sell location data about their users, clearly they don't actually care about your privacy, especially ones like this. I actually went into the reviews a little bit, and like this one that we see from Brotherhood Creed, he's complaining about them adding double ads and triple ads. You know, they're putting lots of ads into their app, presumably to make some money from it, right? Which is kind of understandable on one hand to me. I mean, I literally get paid from ad revenue on YouTube, so I can't knock them too much for that. But the fact that this is supposed to be a religious app, it makes it a little bit suspect, right? Like, there's so many people out there that are basically religious grifters. Like, they just use religion as a way to pretty much extract money out of dumb people who don't know any better. And I haven't really done a lot of research into this company, but it seems like that's what's going on to me based off of the complaints about a whole bunch of ads in the app, as well as the fact that they're literally selling out Muslims using this app to the Department of Homeland Security. But anyway, for the alternative apps, I don't really have any solutions for Bro or for Perfect Makeup because I don't use apps like these. I guess if Perfect Makeup is pretty much just using the selfie camera as a mirror, then you could use something like Simple Camera, or you could use Open Camera. So both of these are free open source camera apps that don't track you, and they are available on the F-Droid store. Now, as for the Muslim apps, I don't know of any apps for doing the prayers at specific time because I don't pray, but I do have a Quran app that I found on F-Droid that also has a bunch of different translations for the Quran available. So this looks like a pretty good solution for, I guess, having like a pocket Quran that obviously doesn't spy on you and doesn't sell out your location data to DHS. But, you know, for the prayers at specific time, I feel like you really don't even need technology to figure that out. I do have some Muslim friends, and they use calendars that you could just buy for different cities that you're living in, and they will literally tell you what times of day you're supposed to pray for each day. And also, if you keep track of the seasons, you could probably play it by ear pretty accurately. Like right now, we're going into springtime. So sunrise is about 1 minute earlier each day, and sunset is about 1 minute later each day. And that'll keep going until the summer solstice in June. Then the days are going to start getting shorter again. So there's many solutions for prayer time without using spooky tech. I mean, hell, Islam is over 1,000 years old. So obviously, people have been doing their prayers without any technology for centuries, and they've been getting along just fine. But that's it for this video, guys. I hope that you found it useful. Again, if you are using any of these apps, you should probably switch to something else so that you aren't literally being tracked by the feds. Leave a like and a comment on this video to hack the algorithm, and have a great rest of your day.